I'll say that again. You are the only person who can make you respond in any way, any particular way. Nobody else can make you respond in any given way. Only you can make you respond. You are the one in control of your response. Because, hey, if you're not in control, who is? Nobody else is. You are the one in control of your response. So no matter what situation you're in, even though it's not your fault, you have full control over how you choose to respond. And I'm going to give an example here. And again, it's an horrific example, but it really, really does demonstrate the concept of it not being your fault, but it is your responsibility. It's how you choose to respond. And this was something that happened back in World War II. There were two Jewish brothers, and they were in Europe. And as you can imagine, the Nazis captured them and interred them in concentration camps. The concentration camps were absolutely horrific, evil, vile places where nasty stuff happened. Hopeless situations. Obviously, it was not their fault. It's not their fault for being Jewish. It's not their fault that the Nazis rose. It's not their fault they got captured. It's not their fault they were placed in a concentration camp. None of that was their fault. Their responsibility, however, their ability to respond, how they reacted, was entirely down to them. One of the brothers kind of lost the will to live. He kind of figured, this is it. This is so horrific. Nobody can get through this. I'm not going to get through this. There's no way to survive this. This is just too much. I'm going to die here. It's an awful place. There is no hope. And sure enough, sadly, he died at the concentration camp. The other brother, however, his response, he decided the world has got to know about this. The world has got to know about this atrocity. I have got to do whatever it takes to survive, so that when I get out of here, when this is over, however long that takes, it may be the rest of my lifetime, I don't know, but however long it is, I have got to survive so that when I finally leave here, I can tell the world what happened here, because the world has to know what happened. It's my responsibility to make sure the world knows what happened here so that it won't happen again. Sure enough, he somehow found a way to survive. It was horrific, but he found a way to survive. And sure enough, after the war, after the liberation, he went on to tell the world about what happened there, to share his story about the horrific atrocities, and to continue to share those stories about it, so the world learned anew about what happened there. Two people in the same situation. One of them basically placed themselves at effect and sadly died as a result. The other one placed themselves at cause. They decided they had to survive. Whatever it took, they were going to survive so that they could spread word about this. Two different people, two people in the same situation. It was not either of their fault. Neither of them were at fault for what happened there. Neither of them were at fault for being there. One of them placed themselves at effect. One of them placed themselves at cause. It's our ability to respond to a situation which is within our control and which really empowers us and enables us to ultimately to master our destiny and to take control of a situation. Now, in that case, obviously, neither brother had any control over what was happening there, but they did have control over one thing, the most important thing. They had control over themselves, over their responses, over their mindset, over their willpower. Just as you, dear listener, and I, and everyone around us has the ability to take control of our response. It's our ability to respond. which governs what happens to us, how we get through a situation. Which is why I say it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Responsibility, your ability to respond to situations. You see, the thing is, as I mentioned earlier, nobody can make you feel anything. Let's explore this for a moment, because this could be a contentious one. Nobody can make you feel anything. Now, how often have you said, oh, that person makes me so angry? Or, that person they really made me sad. They really upset me. They made me feel hurt. No, they didn't. Oh, yes, they did. No, they really didn't. They didn't, because nobody can actually make us feel anything. We are the ones who give rise to our emotions. Ooh, now that sounds a bit of a tricky one. But when you pause and think about it, we are the ones who decide, either consciously or unconsciously, how we're going to feel in any situation. Which is why when we talk about somebody made us feel angry, we're placing ourselves at effect. We're giving that other person permission to control our emotions. We're giving that other person permission to tell us what emotion we should be experiencing. That's a very disempowering place. It's also a very easy place. See, here's the thing about being at cause and being at effect. Being at effect is very, very easy. It takes no effort at all to place yourself at effect. No effort at all. Which, of course, is why there's no rewards at all. Placing yourself at cause, that can take a lot of effort. It can take a lot of effort. And ultimately, it's far more rewarding because you now have control over what's going on. You have control over how you're responding. You are in charge of you. You are in charge of the way in which you are reacting and responding. Sometimes the way we respond to things, it's so deeply ingrained in us that we almost feel as though we have no control over it. For example, somebody who has a short temper, they may well feel that, God, I wish I could control this temper. And the reason they can't is because they don't yet understand how they can control it. Or it may well be that things which trigger their temper have been so deeply ingrained in us. Because remember, we spoke in a previous episode about how our brain, how our unconscious basically learns how to respond. And it always learns how to respond in what it feels is the best way. And it responds in the best way with the tools that it has at the time. And when we encounter any situation, we learn from that. And we our unconscious kind of creates a rule book. It's almost like it's a set of programs that tell it how to behave in certain situations. So somebody who perhaps has a short temper, they have learned at some point in the past, they've learned to respond in an angry way to a particular situation. Which means next time a similar sort of situation comes up, unconscious checks its rule book, runs the program associated with that, which triggers anger. But the thing is, it's always possible to change that. And I've seen this time after time after time with clients that I've worked with. So one of the things that I do when I work with clients is we help them with unwanted behaviors, unwanted emotions, all of these sorts of things. Anger is an issue which affects so many people. I used to be affected by anger far more than I realized. And by using the same tools that I use with my clients in coaching, I was able to not eliminate anger totally. There will still be times when I get angry, I would imagine. I suppose if you came up to me in the street and just punched me in the face for no reason, I imagine I'd probably have a flush of anger in there somewhere, I expect. But I've removed my angry responses to things. So I'm able to react in a much more calm and considered manner, which is a massive help. Because when we get very emotional, when our emotions are high, our logic and our rationality is very low. How often have we got angry, flown off the handle at someone, made some rash decision, made something which we then regret for ages after? Whereas if we were in a much calmer place, we would not have made that rash decision. Is this sounding familiar? I mean, do you know people who've done that sort of thing? Perhaps you know them very, very well. People they've allowed emotion to get the better of them, and they've made a rash decision. They've said some words in anger which they then deeply, deeply regret thereafter. But it's too late. The damage has been done. Or perhaps someone gets swept up in the excitement to buy something, and the next thing they know, oh my word, I've just bought a timeshare. How the heck did that happen? Because again, they'd allowed their emotion to run away and to get the better of them. But the reality is we can control all of our emotions. And I mean, let's mention anger. Looking at anger, when I work with clients, I have a process which enables us to really cool the emotion in situations. Because if we do respond angrily to things, it's because something in the past taught us that anger was, at that point, the best way to respond. Either because we responded angrily and got a good result, or we saw other people respond, other people we respect and admire, like our parents, for example, responded angrily in a particular situation. So we learn, that's how you respond. Okay, I get it. That's how we respond. And so your rule book is written. It doesn't have to be that way. And what I do when we work together, we effectively go back to that situation that taught you anger. And instead of anger, we learn new lessons from that situation, new empowering lessons. Because anything that happens, there are always things you can learn from it. There are negative things you can learn from it. There are positive things you can learn from it. And when we learn those positive things, that then removes the negative emotions. Because instead of negative emotions around that event, we've got positive emotions, positive learnings, very empowering things which come out from it. And from that, we then remove the heat of the emotion. So next time we're in a similar situation, our unconscious goes through the rule book, runs the appropriate program, which is devoid of emotion. So we don't have an emotional response. Instead, we're able to respond calmly and rationally. This may sound too good to be true. It works. Every single client I've worked with, we've focused on these, whether it's anger, whether it's shyness, whether it's anxiety, whether it's being afraid, whether it's fear, whatever the negative emotion, we've always managed to soothe that emotion, calm that emotion out from the original event. It doesn't mean you have to relive that event in a traumatic way. None of what we do is about reliving the trauma in it. Quite the reverse. It's all about distancing yourself from any of the emotion that was around the event at all. So it's all very safe. It's very calm, very safe, but it removes the emotion from it so that in the future, whenever you're in situations which in the past might have enabled you to react in negative ways, you now have the ability to respond, your responsibility to respond in positive ways, calmer ways, more rational ways. I worked with someone who they had anger issues when they were challenged. If somebody would challenge them on things, they'd start getting angry, and it would escalate and escalate. They got more angry, the other person would get more angry, and so they'd get even more angry. It would escalate into a big shouting match and so on. Not very good if you're in customer services. We worked together. A short one session on this one. We worked together, removed all the anger from the past, helped them to come up with their new positive learnings. With the result, somebody would come in angry about a situation. They now responded in a much, much more positive way, much calmer. They were able to empathize with their person, but without taking on any of that anger. And they were able to help the person and come up with a